No, don't start the wheels. 3, 2, 1. Hi everyone, welcome to Living Room Talks with Sarah Jane. I'm so happy and excited to have my wonderful sister, Karen Mangle, on joining us today. Welcome, Karen.
Thank you, Sarah, for having me.
Do you know what's really funny, guys, is that we're actually dressed almost exactly the same. We both have denim jackets on, black top, black pants, and brown boots on. So we did well today. But I've asked my sister Karen to join us today because today we're going to be talking about self-care. And I think this is such an important topic for women because I think we maybe sometimes we don't do it enough as we should.
Yeah.
And but also sometimes I think we feel self-care is selfish as well, but it's actually really important. And so thank you, Karen, for joining us. And my sister is due with her third baby and only a couple weeks left, which is very exciting. But I wanted to, so as we get into the interview today, I wanted to ask you, you know, you're a mum, you're very involved in your local church, you know, you were working up until last week or the week before, and you run a home with 2 small kids. What do you like to do for you?
That's a really good question because I think, you know, getting married and having kids, so in the space of five years, there's a lot that's happened. So that's really changed and that's really become a challenge. And so at the moment in the season that I'm in, I think what I like to do for me is just to steal away somewhere quiet with a cup of tea, whether that's watching a doco on TV or you know, SBS World Movies, something kind of interesting, I guess, interesting to me, or go for a walk, or so it's just alone time. So it's not very often. I used to read a lot. But at the moment, with life being so busy and having preggy brain and things like that, I find it a bit hard to absorb a lot of things. So, to me, audio podcasts or listening to the Bible audio or something like that has been really helpful for that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so good. So I mentioned before today we are talking about the topic of self-care.
Yeah.
And the importance behind self-care because I don't think I mentioned that Karen is also a nurse. And how long have you been nursing for?
I think going on maybe like 18 years or something.
Wow.
A long time.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
So as a nurse, I can imagine you would see a lot of cases of people who are genuinely sick, but also I guess a lot of people that maybe haven't really taken care of themselves due to a number of reasons. You know, we know life is busy. So I assume in the 18 years you've picked up a lot about self-care and burnout and probably a lot of things lead into self-care. Yeah.
It's been it's really interesting because for me, and this is my experience, in my opinion, with the Western health, we don't really talk a lot, so it's becoming more popular now, but a lot about preventative management. It's like we're treating the symptoms a lot of the time. So and I worked with one GP who was amazing because she would say to her patients who would come in like with a virus or flu thing, she would say to them, all you need to do is just go home, fluids, good diet and rest. And people like, but I don't want that. I want antibiotics, I want medications, you know, I want a quick fix. But that was like the best because that's what your body was screaming out for was rest and good food. And things like that. So I loved that. I loved seeing her perspective. A lot of people that you see that come through the doors, a lot of it is because life's too busy. We're stressed. We're not eating right. We're not exercising. There's a lot of toxic input, I guess, into our lives, and so and that has to come out somewhere, doesn't it? And the result of it, you know, us becoming ill. So yeah, you have seen that.
You mentioned stress, and I think I'd love to touch on stress, but we might get to that a bit later.
Yeah, sure.
So the term self-care, what does that mean to you?
I think when I hear self-care, and it's not coming from a dictionary, it's just coming from Karen's mind, but for me, self-care means self-love. So if you love something, if you value something, you will put into it. You will maintain it. You will do things to help make it function better, you know what I mean? And you take great importance of it. So self-care to me is self-love. So if you don't love yourself, if you don't value yourself, you're not going to look after yourself. You won't care what goes in your mouth. You won't care if you have time to rest. You won't care the environmental factors that you're allowing to influence your life. So I think it has to start with loving and valuing yourself. And if you're a Christian, knowing who you are in Christ. So,
yeah. And I think when you know who you are in Christ, then you're able to put up boundaries. I think sometimes I'm speaking for myself as a Christian, sometimes I feel like I don't know what the boundary is, especially when you want to serve other people. But I think when you do know who you are in Christ, it becomes easier to put up those boundaries because, if your cup is empty, how do you then fill up other people's cups? There's nothing to give. And so I think it's really important for boundaries as well.
Well, as a nurse, we were always taught the one main thing that you need to do is keep yourself healthy, because if you're not healthy, if you're not looking after yourself, you're no good to anyone. And I guess that's good as a parent as well, if you're not healthy, if you're not in a good space, the rest of your household's affected. And and I guess growing up in the church, we grew up in the church, so we were always growing up serving as young, as far as I can remember back, or putting out chairs or doing something, and sometimes that become a task, and you do feel swayed by people's opinions, or people pleasing is a big one. I think that's one thing we've struggled. Maybe in our family, you're trying to do the best by people, and then that can also be unhealthy if you don't have those boundaries set up. But
So Karen, what is self-care? What if someone asked you, okay, what is self-care? What would you say to them?
I would say it's like a checkup. So, for instance, we go to the doctors every now and then. We get our bloods done, get our blood pressure checked. We do a checkup and see how our physical health is going. I think self-care is a checkup on seeing how your mental and emotional and all those other things that you can't see, how that's going. So that might look like maybe in your diary, one day a week, setting some time to just to sit in a quiet spot and just journal about the week, did anything come up that you need to address? Did anything bother you? Did anything worry you? Or was there wins, So I think it's still in a way that quiet time. It might be, and in that space, you can also just check your diet. How's your diet been this week? Have you exercised? So I think self-care is really intentional. You have to really make space, otherwise it's not going to happen. So, and that's making space, do a meal plan, do an exercise plan, and do a self-care checkup day plan in your diary.
Well, that's a good idea.
Otherwise, it's not going to happen.
So would you say the self-care day, the checkup plan, should that be weekly, monthly?
I would really do it weekly, because monthly, a lot happens in a month. And a lot goes by and you've lost a whole month. And then you can reassess your goals, and then you can see, for instance, self-care is not just the checkup day, but it's getting a hobby, It's touching base with things that fill you up and replenish you. So whether that's being around family or friends, or, going to the gym, going for a walk, going for coffee or tea, going for a drive, exploring, whatever, or reading a good book, whatever tops up your tank.
Yes.
and makes you feel full and invigorated and alive,
yeah,
that's what you need to make sure that you're hitting that.
That's great.
Every week.
That's really good.
So,
and I think the important thing to note as well is that self-care looks different for each one of us.
Good point. Yeah.
So perhaps today, if you are going, oh, I actually don't really know what fills up my tank, maybe it's really good to spend some time just with some paper or your phone, or maybe not your phone because we get so distracted, don't we? But maybe paper, and maybe ask God, what does fill up my tank, and write it down. And you may be surprised, because for me, it's a night on the couch watching a movie, or reading a book, or going for a drive somewhere, or getting a massage or something. Or whereas for other people, it might be surrounded by your friends, so we're all really different in that sense.
Yeah, that's so true. And also and it's not even just people are different, it's in your own life you go through different seasons. So for instance, the season good. I'm at, I need different things to replenish me. Once my kids are older, it will look different again, or once I'm in a different stage, it will look so that's why you need really to good. Have regular checks, checkups with God. Because then you can see where you're at, and you get to know a little bit. It's like being self-aware.
Yeah.
So knowing what makes you tick.
Yeah.
Knowing about you, and you can even ask other people, like ask your family or friends that are close to you. Say, when do I seem the most happiest? If it's hard for you to decipher for yourself, so you can even ask other people and just reflect back on what makes you happy. But it's important in those times to try and not be around things that are going to drain you. So when you have those checkup days and when you schedule in those things like social media or there are people in our lives that can drain us, and it's sometimes not their fault, it's just the way things are, but it's important to really be strict on that.
So Karen, what do you think the Bible encourages self-care?
I think so, because I love it with Jesus. He often stole away, he went away to a quiet place to be with God. And prayer. And so I really love that we take his example as our example for life as well. So he was disciplined, and he even noticed when the disciples as well were tired, like after ministering to people, and he said, come, let us go to the other side, let's get in the boat, let's go, let's get something to eat, And even in the Psalms 127, God says he gives his beloved sleep. And so I know God has made our body to function in a certain way. And sleep and rest is a part of that. And God rested on the seventh day too. So after creating this marvelous world that we live in. So we take those examples and the Bible probably doesn't necessarily say self-care. But you can see examples of where our body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. So we need to look after what God has given us, because we only get one of, we've got one shot at life here on earth. And we want to do it well.
So that's really good. So what are some practical ways we can apply self-care into our lives?
So we touched on that before. So I think really get in your diary, jotting down a day where you can reflect on your life. And I really think, like, if once a week is too much at this stage, maybe start with once a month, and then have an aim to increase that to maybe every fortnight or every week, so that you are disciplined in looking after you. Because I think, you can only give out what you put in. So you only, so you being not effective in your own body will just affect everything, your work, your social life, everything around you. So I think it's that get in your diary, going to the beach, going to a cafe, going to your room, whatever is a spot that makes you think, and just start reflecting on yourself. Even this, and I guess there's some courses, or you talk to your pastor or people that you respect about how to be more, I guess, self-aware about what makes you tick. Counselling is good as well. If you find that you don't really know yourself, or who am I, or my purpose, or things like that. So once you've got that down, I would recommend finding a hobby, something that refreshes you, that you can schedule in. And why I'm saying schedule in your diaries is because we live in such a busy society. If things aren't down on paper, they just won't get done unless you're really highly disciplined. So like my hubby and myself at the start of the year, we scheduled in date nights for the rest of the year. And that might not always work out, but at least we were intentional and, you know, we scheduled a holiday, family holiday this time, but we got pregnant, but that's cool. But, so you have to be intentional and ask someone to keep you accountable, like get, you know, your friend or your leader or pastor or someone you trust, keep you accountable to it.
Yeah.
So,
I know a lot of women might be involved in, might be quite involved in church or a leadership role. I quickly want to touch on burnout. And so are there triggers? Because we know some people that have gone through burnout.
Yeah.
Would you say there are triggers or things that people can look out for themselves or for someone they know that's a road down towards burnout?
I think oftentimes with burnout, we don't really realise it ourselves until it's a bit too late. And so that's why doing life with good people is so important, because often they will like see a change in you.
Yeah.
So whether it's a change in your behaviour, maybe you're getting a bit moody or short-tempered or angry with things.
Yeah.
Your eating habits could be changing. Your sleeping habits could be changing as well. You might be drawing away from social activities or from people, and even just getting sick. You know, with viruses and things a lot of the time as well, because it is toxic to your body. It doesn't. It not only emotionally, mentally does it have an effect, burnout, but also physiologically as well. So, so I think if you're already self-aware and you're already having these checkups with God and yourself, these dates with God, you might be able to catch that a bit sooner than someone that's just going on that treadmill, going, and not resting. So, so there's two things there, allowing yourself to have those checkups, but also, you know, being around good people that can point things out and talk into your life as well.
It's really good.
Yeah.
And we mentioned before about stress.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of us may be stressed. It's very common to be stressed. Do you have anything to say about stress? Like, you know, I know stress can actually impact, we talked about burnout, can impact the body physically, but so can stress. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
I think stress is very similar. Like, we need a little bit of stress, otherwise we wouldn't get out of bed and be motivated to do what we do and things like that. So, but high stress, I think it's probably a similar thing. Like, you know, our eatings will change. People get headaches, you know, tension headaches and that kind of thing. So you notice the effects on your body. And even your productivity, like your output, you know, you're lethargic, you know, you lose interest in things. You know, like short-tempered and things like that. So I think it's so tricky these days because our society runs on busyness, and the more you're doing, the better you look. You know what I mean? You know, it looks better on your, you know, on your resume or whatever. And which is so not true. And but saying that, we do have to work hard to achieve good things as well. So you need that balance. But managing stress, I think, because all those kind of things can lead to mental health issues. So I think what's also good for your body is, just in a practical way, is just having a good diet, like a whole food, healthy, well balanced diet, because there's too much sugars in a lot of processed, too much salt, which is toxic. And exercising, because often a few people that I've known that have gone through depression, exercise has been a major key to helping them heal as well. That's, you know, really, so and you notice it when you go for a walk, you go outside. It's just so refreshing. It's beautiful. So
that's really good, because for me personally, working from home, like I'm at home a lot more now, and I find particularly maybe after a challenging meeting or a hard conversation, or just like if my brain just can't get into gear, I find that for going for walks, it just helps me feel so much more refreshed and helps to clear my mind. And to be honest, it also gives me that opportunity to really just remove distractions and spend that time with God. you know, and so I think for me that's really good. You know, just as simple as walking every day. It doesn't have to be hard. You know, and what Karen said about our diet, that's really important too. I think a lot of the food we eat plays a big role in self-care. You know, we get in the right nutrition and all that kind of stuff. So getting enough sleep, drinking enough water. Karen mentioned it before, you know, spending time with the right people. I also think maybe part of self-care is, you know, making sure we have that daily time with God in the Word.
So good.
Worship. There's so many good worship albums out there at the moment, or even just in quietness, you know, that one-on-one time with the Lord. I think that's where a lot of our refreshment comes from. Hey?
Yeah, I was actually going to say that's really good, Sarah, because I think we should start our day with Jesus and end our day with Jesus, because that way we're is at the end, you know, beginning and the end. And we can write, like if you spend the first moments of our day with Jesus, it will have just an amazing impact on the rest of our day. When we end the day with Jesus, you know, it will help us sleep to be sweet, you know, and for him to minister to us as we sleep, and just to debrief, unload, and just let things go. We have time with him throughout the day. But I think it's important to have the beginning and the end with him as well. So it's really good.
That's so good.
Yeah.
So that kind of wraps up our segment on self-care. You know, we could keep talking about all these different things we've talked about today, but is there any final comments or thoughts that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think look, can I just encourage you just to get to a place where you know that you're valued, and you know that you are of great worth, and that when God formed you, that he did it so lovingly, and that you are important. And so if you're struggling to really value yourself or see any significance in who you are, why don't you, if you know Jesus, why don't you just get before him and have those quiet moments like Sarah was saying? Just let him pour into you, let him fill you up, and let him restore who you are. If you don't know Jesus, you know, why don't you just chat to some good people that can really help build you up, you know, and really strengthen you. So I just wanted to, and especially as a woman, you know, you play such a great role in society and families. So don't underestimate the place where God has put you. So,
that's so good. And if you do have questions or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. We'd love to help you and answer your questions, and even just hear your own story about self-care. That would be wonderful. But thank you so much, Karen, for joining me today. We'll make sure we talk to each other about what we're going to wear before we chat again. But that wraps up our Living Room Talks with Sarah Jane. We hope you have a great day. Bye, everyone.
Bye.